Let's take a moment to understand why the very first lesson from the Prophet Muhammad is about sincerity. It's no accident that he began with intention. In fact, his famous words are recorded, "Actions are but by intentions, and every person shall have only what they intended." This is more than a moral reminder. It's a blueprint for the inner architecture of our lives. It tells us that the outer shape of what we do is meaningless without the inner substance of why we do it. Think about it. Two people can do the exact same deed, give charity, smile at a stranger, pray, help a neighbor, but the reward, the impact, even the value in the sight of Allah can be worlds apart because one did it to be seen and the other did it to please their Creator. Our world today is obsessed with optics, with the show of goodness, with the applause that comes from public recognition. But the Prophet reminded us that a deed done for show is like a tree that looks lush on the outside but is hollow within. It will eventually fall. Sincerity is not merely about not lying to others. It is about not lying to yourself. It is about purifying the motive at the root. Before every action, ask yourself, who am I doing this for? This question is not to make you paranoid about every move you make, but to invite you into a habit of self-awareness. The beauty of sincerity is that it frees you from the exhausting need for validation. You no longer measure success by likes, praise, or public acknowledgement. Instead, your measure becomes something eternal. Is Allah pleased with me in this moment? And sincerity has a way of sharpening the heart. When your intention is pure, you stop wasting time on things that don't matter. You realize that your worth is not tied to impressing others, but to aligning with the truth. This makes your actions lighter, more focused, and paradoxically, more impactful, even in the eyes of people. Why? Because sincerity is magnetic. People can feel it. It is rare in a world full of pretense. They may not always be able to name it, but they will trust you more, listen more, and be moved more deeply by your words and deeds when they sense that you mean what you say. The Prophet lived sincerity so fully that even his smallest acts carried weight. When he smiled, it was not a social mask, it was genuine compassion. When he spoke, he wasn't simply filling silence, he was delivering truth. His sincerity meant that there was no gap between his private life and his public image. In the Quran, Allah praises him as a beautiful example for all who hope in him. This example is only possible because his actions came from a place of pure devotion, free from hypocrisy. From a psychological perspective, sincerity protects us from the corrosive effects of ego. The ego wants to be seen, applauded, and admired. It will push you to do things that look noble, but secretly feed its hunger for recognition. But when your intention is anchored in Allah's pleasure, the ego starves. And when the ego starves, the soul thrives. You start to find peace in doing the right thing even if no one notices, even if people misunderstand you, even if your reward is delayed until the hereafter. This is where sincerity becomes an act of liberation. You are no longer chained to the unpredictable moods and opinions of others. You don't have to keep performing for an audience whose applause is temporary and whose approval is fickle. Instead, you live before an audience of one, and that one is your Creator, who knows the secrets of your heart. There is an incredible dignity and strength in this way of living, but sincerity must be nurtured. It's not a one-time decision. It's a daily renewal. Our intentions are like water. They can get murky if we leave them unattended. This is why the Prophet taught us to constantly check our hearts. Before a deed, during a deed, and even after a deed, we must ask, is this still for Allah? Or have I let something else creep in? That's not self-doubt. It's spiritual maintenance. It keeps the heart clear and the reward pure. And here's the paradox. When you stop chasing recognition, recognition often finds you. But now it's different. You don't depend on it. Praise becomes a gift you can appreciate without clinging to, and criticism becomes feedback you can learn from without being crushed by. This emotional stability is one of the greatest benefits of sincerity. So, how do we begin? Start small. In your prayers tonight, before you raise your hands, pause and say to yourself, "This is for Allah alone." When you help someone, do it quietly. When you give in secret if you can. And when you succeed at something, thank Allah before you thank yourself. These small acts, repeated over time, will rewire your motives. They will make sincerity your default state. Because here's the truth, the world measures you by what it sees, but Allah measures you by what you intend. And when your heart is aligned with Him, even your smallest steps will carry the weight of mountains. So remember, purify your intention, and you purify your life. Everything else will follow. Patience, sabr, is one of those qualities we all admire in theory, but struggle to live in practice. Yet, when we look at the life of the Prophet Muhammad, patience wasn't something he applied only when he had no choice. It was a constant state of his heart. It wasn't passive waiting, it was active strength. It was the ability to hold steady without bitterness, to endure without losing hope, to move forward without letting hardship poison the soul. We often imagine patience as simply putting up with things, but in reality, it's a much deeper discipline. Patience is not the absence of action, it is action guided by wisdom. It is not about being motionless, it's about moving at the pace that aligns with divine timing. In the Quran, Allah repeatedly pairs patience with victory, with success, with His love. That alone should tell us it's not a small virtue. It's one of the most decisive factors in the quality of our life and the state of our faith. The Prophet experienced trials that would have broken most of us: exile from his home, the loss of loved ones, years of persecution, hunger, betrayal, and repeated attempts on his life. Yet he remained steadfast. This wasn't because he felt nothing, he felt deeply. He wept when he lost people he loved. He grieved, but he never let grief turn into despair. He got angry at injustice, but never let anger turn into cruelty. This is patience in its highest form, enduring the storm without letting it change your character for the worse. There's a psychological beauty in patience that we often overlook. Modern life trains us for instant gratification. If a video takes more than 3 seconds to load, we get restless. If we don't see results in a week, we feel like we've failed. This mindset is poison for both our personal growth and our spiritual development. Patience reminds us that real change, real reward, real peace, these things take time. And when you accept that, you stop exhausting yourself with the constant anxiety of why isn't it happening yet. One of the reasons we struggle with patience is that we confuse it with weakness. But patience is not weakness, it is restraint. It's easy to lash out, to quit, to take shortcuts. That's the path of least resistance. Patience requires you to hold yourself back, to wait when your emotions are screaming for immediate relief. That takes enormous inner power. Think of it like standing in a river's current. You can let it sweep you away in anger or fear, or you can plant your feet, breathe, and remain steady until you can move forward safely. The Prophet taught us patience in 3 main forms: patience in obeying Allah, patience in staying away from what He has prohibited, and patience in enduring what is beyond our control. The first requires discipline. The second requires self-control. The third requires trust, and all 3 are connected to the heart's relationship with Allah. Because when you trust that Allah sees your struggle, that He knows your effort, that He is aware of the weight you're carrying, you stop feeling like you're enduring alone. And here's something we need to remember. Patience is not just about enduring trials, it's about enduring blessings too. That might sound strange, but think about it. When you're blessed with wealth, health, or influence, patience is what stops you from becoming arrogant or careless. It's what keeps you from wasting those blessings or taking them for granted. Without patience, blessings can corrupt you just as much as hardships can break you. On a deeper, philosophical level, patience is about living in harmony with reality instead of being at war with it. When something painful happens, our first reaction is often resistance. Why me? Why now? This isn't fair. But patience reframes the experience. It doesn't mean you don't work to change what can be changed. It means you don't poison yourself with resentment over what can't be. Patience allows you to move forward without dragging the weight of bitterness with you. And here's the transformative part. Patience grows through use. You don't wake up one morning with unshakable sabrets built, moment by moment, choice by choice. Every time you hold back a hurtful word, every time you take a deep breath instead of reacting in anger, every time you persevere through a challenge instead of quitting, you are strengthening a muscle that will carry you through far greater trials in the future. In our fast-paced, hyper-distracted world, cultivating patience is an act of quiet rebellion. It's saying, I will not be rushed into poor decisions. I will not let discomfort make me compromise my principles. I will not let pain make me forget the bigger picture. It's an act of faith to believe that what is meant for you will reach you, and what is not meant for you will pass you by, no matter how much you chase it. And so, if there's one thing we can learn from the Prophet about patience, it's that it is not simply something you have, it's something you become. You become patient not by avoiding hardship, but by walking through it with dignity, trust, and resilience. You become patient by remembering that every delay, every difficulty, every unanswered prayer is still part of Allah's plan for you, and His plan is always better than yours, so hold steady. Even if the road feels long, even if the results feel far, know that every step you take with patience is a step under the shade of Allah's mercy. And when the time is right, the doors you've been waiting for will open, not a second too soon, not a second too late, but at the exact moment they were meant to. Words are not just sounds that leave our mouths. They are carriers of meaning, containers of emotion, seeds that can grow into something beautiful or something poisonous. The Prophet Muhammad understood this better than anyone, which is why he taught, whoever believes in Allah and the last day should speak good or remain silent. On the surface, this advice seems simple, almost too simple. But when you reflect on it, you realize it is one of the most powerful principles for building relationships, preserving dignity, and living a life that leaves a positive mark on the world. In our time, words have become cheaper than ever. We type them in seconds, we speak them without thought, we post them online without pausing to consider their impact. But the truth is, words can heal and words can destroy, and often, once they are spoken, they cannot be taken back. Think of a time when someone said something that stayed with you for years, for better or worse. One sentence can lift a person's spirit for a lifetime, and one careless remark can break them in ways you will never see. This is why the Prophet emphasized not just speaking, but speaking good. It's not enough to simply avoid lying. Our words should add value, spread benefit, bring comfort, or convey truth. From a psychological point of view, words shape perception. They create realities in the minds of others. If you constantly speak in a negative, cynical way, you are building a mental environment for yourself and for those around you that is heavy and hopeless. If you speak with hope, encouragement, and sincerity, you create an environment that energizes and uplifts. The Prophet's speech was always measured, thoughtful, and infused with purpose. He never wasted words, and he never used them to belittle, humiliate, or mock. Even in disagreement, his words carried dignity. But speaking good isn't just about being nice. Sometimes the most compassionate words are truthful words that challenge someone to grow. The Prophet spoke the truth even when it was uncomfortable, but he did so in a way that left the door open for people to change. This is where wisdom comes in, knowing when to speak, what to say, and how to say it. Without wisdom, even truth can become a weapon rather than a cure. Silence, too, is a part of this lesson. Remaining silent is not weakness, it's discipline. There are moments when saying nothing is more powerful than speaking. When emotions are high, silence can prevent you from saying something you'll regret. When you don't have the full picture, silence can save you from spreading falsehood. The Prophet's silence was not empty. He used it as a space for reflection, for allowing others to speak, for creating calm in tense moments. And here's something we often overlook. Our words are not just heard by people, they are recorded by Allah. Every phrase, every comment, every joke is preserved. Knowing this should make us more mindful. We don't want to arrive on the day of judgment and find that our greatest regret is not the things we failed to achieve, but the harm we caused with our tongues. In one narration, the Prophet was asked about what leads people to the fire, and he replied, "The harvest of their tongues." That image of words being like seeds reminds us that what we plant now will be what we harvest later. On a personal level, speaking good requires awareness of your own emotional state. Most hurtful words are spoken in moments of anger, pride, or insecurity. If you can catch yourself in those moments, take a breath and hold back until you can speak from a place of clarity, you will save yourself and others a lot of pain. This is why the Prophet encouraged us to seek refuge in Allah when we feel anger rising, to change our posture, to perform ablution. These are all practical tools for guarding the tongue. The beauty of this principle is that it applies to every part of life. In marriage, speaking good builds trust and affection. In parenting, it shapes the self-esteem and resilience of children. In friendship, it creates loyalty. In leadership, it inspires respect. Even with strangers, a kind word can open hearts and create opportunities for good you may never have imagined. The Prophet once said, "Do not belittle any good deed, even if it is to meet your brother with a cheerful face. A smile, a gentle tone, a sincere greeting, all of these are forms of speaking good, even without words. In our digital age, this lesson is even more urgent. Every message, every comment, every post is a form of speech. The fact that you are not saying it with your mouth doesn't make it any less real in the sight of Allah. In some ways, written words are even more powerful because they can be shared, saved, and reread. Before you hit send, ask yourself, is this good? Will it bring benefit or will it harm? That one pause could save you from regret. If you want to live by this teaching, start practicing intentional speech. Before you talk, filter your words through 3 questions. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? If it doesn't pass those filters, it's better left unsaid. Over time, you'll find that you speak less, but when you do speak, your words carry more weight. People will listen because they'll know you don't speak without thought, and so this is what we learn from the Prophet. Words are not small things. They can be bridges or they can be weapons. They can be medicine or they can be poison. Every word is a choice, and every choice shapes your here and your hereafter. So guard your tongue as you would guard a treasure, because in reality, that is exactly what it is. Use your words to heal, to guide, to bring light into dark places. And if you can't do that in a given moment, then honor the wisdom of silence, because sometimes the most eloquent thing you can say is nothing at all. Mercy is not just an emotion you feel in the moment, it's a way of being, a constant state of the heart. When we study the life of the Prophet Muhammad, we see that mercy wasn't an occasional reaction, it was his default setting. Allah himself describes him in the Quran, "And we have not sent you, O Muhammad, except as a mercy to the worlds." Think about that, not just mercy to his friends, not just mercy to believers, but mercy to the worlds. That means people who loved him, people who hated him, animals, the environment, even future generations who would never meet him in person. His mercy was vast and consistent, not selective or convenient. The way we often treat mercy is like a switch we turn on when we feel generous and turn off when we're offended. But the Prophet showed that true mercy is not dependent on how others treat you, it's rooted in how you choose to treat them. In Taif, when he was rejected, insulted, and injured until his sandals filled with blood, he didn't pray for destruction upon those people. Instead, he prayed that their descendants would be guided. That's mercy that transcends the ego. Psychologically, mercy requires humility. You can't be merciful if you think you're superior. Mercy sees the humanity in others even when their behavior is ugly. It recognizes that people act from their own wounds, ignorance, or fears, and instead of immediately responding with harshness, it searches for the path that heals rather than harms. This doesn't mean tolerating injustice. Mercy doesn't mean weakness. The Prophet stood firmly against oppression, but even in confrontation, his goal was not humiliation, it was transformation. He wanted hearts to change, not just behaviors. From a philosophical point of view, mercy is an act of alignment with the divine. One of Allah's names is Ar-Rahman, the most merciful. When you extend mercy, you are mirroring one of the most powerful attributes of your Creator. And here's the beauty: the more mercy you give, the more mercy you receive. The Prophet said, "The merciful are shown mercy by the most merciful. Be merciful to those on earth, and the one in the heavens will be merciful to you." This is not just a spiritual law, it's observable in life. When you cultivate a merciful presence, people feel safer around you. They are more open, more willing to trust, more willing to change. Mercy is not abstract, it's practical. It's how you speak to your spouse after a disagreement. It's how you correct your child without breaking their spirit. It's how you respond when someone makes a mistake at work. It's the choice to give someone the benefit of the doubt instead of assuming the worst. These small moments, repeated consistently, build an environment where hearts soften instead of harden. The Prophet didn't just preach mercy, he practiced it in daily life. He visited the sick, even those who had harmed him. He stood when the funeral of a Jewish man passed by, not because they shared faith, but because they shared humanity. He forgave enemies when he had the upper hand, not because they deserved it, but because he knew that forgiveness opens doors that revenge slams shut. Our modern world often mistakes mercy for weakness and harshness for strength. But harshness may win short-term compliance. It rarely wins long-term loyalty or love. Mercy, on the other hand, transforms hearts. And that transformation is far more powerful than fear. If someone obeys you out of fear, the moment you lose your power, they will turn against you. But if someone respects you because they have felt your mercy, that bond will survive even when you have nothing to offer them. From a psychological health perspective, mercy benefits not just the receiver but also the giver. Carrying anger, grudges, and resentment is exhausting. Mercy frees you from that weight. It allows you to move forward without being chained to past hurts. This is why the Prophet encouraged forgiveness. It's as much an act of self-care as it is an act of kindness to others. The challenge, of course, is extending mercy when it's hardest, when we have been wronged, betrayed, or hurt deeply. This is where we take inspiration from the Prophet. He had the authority to punish those who harmed him, but often chose forgiveness. He didn't do it because he forgot the wrong, or because he enjoyed being mistreated. He did it because he understood that mercy has the power to stop cycles of harm. Harshness can escalate conflict. Mercy can dissolve it. We all have moments in life where we stand at a crossroads. Do we answer hurt with hurt, or do we take the harder path of mercy? In those moments, remember that mercy is an investment. You may not see immediate results, but it plants seeds that can grow into trust, healing, and even love where there was once hostility. And mercy doesn't mean avoiding justice. The Prophet applied justice firmly when needed. Mercy is not letting people abuse you. It's choosing to respond in a way that seeks the highest good, not just the easiest revenge. Sometimes the most merciful thing you can do is hold someone accountable, but do it without hatred in your heart. If there is one thing we can take from the Prophet as example, it's that mercy is strength under control. Anyone can retaliate, anyone can speak harshly, But it takes a heart connected to Allah to be merciful when you have every reason to be hard. That is not weakness, that is mastery of the self. So let your mercy be consistent, not selective. Extend it to the people who are easy to love and to those who are not. Let it shape your words, your actions, your decisions. Because in the end, the mercy you give is a reflection of the mercy you hope to receive from people, yes, but more importantly, from Allah on the day when you will need it most.